We are in Split, Croatia, where lawmakers from the European People's Party are meeting to prepare for the upcoming European elections. Migration, climate change, the rise of the far right, those are the challenges the EU is facing. And we can talk about these issues now with the head of the European People's Party, Manfred Weber. Mr. Weber, thank you for being with us. The numbers of refugees and migrants trying to enter the European Union are increasing again, with some EU countries struggling to cope with the situation. Do you think that the EU should get tougher on irregular immigration?
No, not tougher. We have to find our balance. That means we are still a continent who wants to help. Look to Ukraine. We are helping in the moment 3 million Ukrainian refugees in the European Union. That is an amazing number. No one else is doing so. So we have to be a continent who helps people who really need help. But on the other hand, it's clear that the smugglers, the mafia, the organized crime is really pushing a lot of people through the Mediterranean route, first of all. And that has to be stopped. The state decides who is arriving and not the smugglers.
And how can it be stopped then?
Well, only with partnership with our neighbors. That's why we as EPP, as the biggest party of Europe, we are supporting the Memorandum of Understanding with our Tunisian friends. I was there in Tunis a few weeks ago. I met with the President, I met with Foreign Minister and Home Affairs Minister, and I underlined again the commitment. We want to bring this agreement alive. We only can stop the illegal arrivals together with our neighbors.
But why are you supporting this agreement? What are the advantages for the European Union?
Well, first of all, it starts with the perspective also of the Tunisian friends, because we are having always refugees in mind. But for Tunisia and for a lot of colleagues in North Africa, it is first of all about the economic ties. It's about economic growth. It's about jobs for the young generation, and that's why the commitment is Europe is try to do its best to economically, also financially, helps our partners in North Africa. And on the other hand, we have to manage the migration flows together. That means also to invest in the Tunisian-Algerian border, so we have to also care about the southern border of the countries, but to do it together. And again, there is no alternative as to work together, so there's no alternative. And that's why I'm a little bit surprised that, for example, the German government until now, with Olaf Scholz in the lead, is not clearly expressing their support for this kind of agreement. So we did it already once with EU-Turkey years ago, and it was successful by both sides. It was successful also for the refugees who then got better living conditions in Turkey. So let's do it together. But again, I expect from the socialists, from Olaf Scholz in the lead, that they are committed to this agreement.
However, there is mounting evidence of Tunisian authorities treating migrants in an abusive way, of illegal pushbacks, of manifestations of racial hatred. So that doesn't bother you at all?
That is bothering us totally, absolutely. And I spoke also about these issues with the partners there. But again, what is the alternative as to find a common approach, as to be there, as to talk with them, as to send our border guards, to train them, to educate in a way, to find a common understanding on this. So in Africa, a lot of things are quite far away from being perfect. But again, sitting together, finding a common understanding, that is what we have to do.
We have seen that deals like that can be used to blackmail the EU into more concessions, more money. Are you not afraid that Tunisia could weaponize migration against Europe whenever it suits them, just like, for instance, Turkey did in the past?
Well, that's why Europe has, first of all, to be united, because if we are united, we can solve problems. You know, we had also problems once with Belarus, and then we told the airlines, if you are part of a smuggler's model from Iraq to Belarus, then you lose the rights to land in European airports, and immediately they stop their business. So Europe is powerful, Europe is economically strong. I don't think that we should enter into a phase of blackmailing each other, but having in mind that Tunisia has 80% export to the European Union, to the European market. On tourism, Tunisia is quite depending on European tourists. So again, we only can solve problems together. So if someone wants to try to use migrants as a political tool to blackmail us, then Europe can answer. But that's not the way how we should do it. We should do it in a partnership approach, and that's why I really welcome this very much, this agreement. Antonio Tajani, the foreign minister of Italy, was mainly dealing with this deal. And I also welcome that Giorgia Meloni, Mark Rutte and Ursula von der Leyen were there and signed this agreement. And again, we need now clear commitment from all the other leaders.
Migration will be a big topic in the upcoming European elections, with populists exploiting insecurity among European citizens, stirring up fear. And critics say that your party, the European People's Party, is shifting its stance to lure voters away from the far right. Do those critics have a point?
Well, I'm sure that a lot of people don't get these tactical considerations. What we are doing is simply following our EPP DNA. We are People's Party, we are listening. And when we do a legislation on climate change, then we also listen to farmers, then we also listen to rural areas. Then we also listen to those who are working in a car factory and they are producing combustion engine and they are afraid that they are losing their jobs. We have to care, we have to listen, we have to be ambitious in our approach. And on climate change, I'm happy that we as Europeans are the continent who is committed to be CO2 neutral in 2050. We are ambitious, no doubt about this, but we have to do it together. And that is our DNA, that is our approach. If others call it populistic, I don't care. I think that the voters must know that politicians in Brussels defending their interests.
So you're not hardening your stance because of the competition from the far right?
No, we follow our line. We did it already in the last years. And again, I would even say that the position of the German government, the left German government, not contributing now to a solution on migration, that is fueling right populism a lot. That is a real reason, background for a lot of people getting angry, because an ideological driven policy without listening anymore to the normal workers, to the normal farmers, to the normal people, that is fueling right populism all over Europe. So I really urge and ask everyone to be clear, we need now solutions, and that must be middle-based solutions.
You once said that you want your European People Party to be a bridge builder in the center of the European politics. But how can it work when you are willing and ready to work together with far-right parties like Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni's Brothers of Italy, a party with post-fascist origins?
Well, for us it's clear we only work together with those who are pro-European, pro-Ukraine, in this moment of time it's clear, and pro-rule of law. There are three basic principles which I defined as party leader for cooperation on national level. We don't speak about membership in the EPP, we only speak about possibility of coalitions and working together. And these three criteria are fully covered in Italy, are fully covered in a lot of other countries in Europe where we work together. And if you allow me to give you the full picture of EPP, now we are in a lot of countries the front runner for pro-European integration. In Croatia, Andrej Plenković managed to enter into the Schengen zone and have now the euro implemented. In Romania, I'm proud that Klaus Iohannis is a forward-looking leader who brings Romania on the European level and fights against corruption, for example. In Czech Republic, EPP was fighting against the corrupt Babiš. He's a liberal, and now they are doing their best to make a modern country in Czech Republic without corruption. So that is EPP. Or in Slovakia, we have currently elections there. There the EPP is the pro-European parties, and Fico, socialists, is quite close to Viktor Orban. So I don't hear any debate about Fico and what he's doing, pro-Russian approach, anti-Ukraine approach. So my party is clear, my party is strong, my party is united, and in a lot of Central Eastern European countries we are the pro-Europeans and we are the rule of law party. And that is the real DNA of EPP, and that I'm proud about.
And a party that you don't want to work with is the ruling Law and Justice Party in Poland. However, in 2019, your group was quite active in courting peace support. That's the name of the party for Ursula von der Leyen. Now you are talking about building a firewall against them. So what has changed since 2019?
Well, generally speaking, in Europe, we have to guarantee the rule of law principle, and there is in a lot of countries some questions on the table, and that's why we ask Commission and ask the authorities, also the European Court of Justice finally, to be clear on this. So we always defended the idea of a rule of law mechanism and the rule of law based approach. In the Polish case, we are in an election campaign. That's why the main message to Poland is the decision about the future of Poland is only in the hand of the Poles. So they will go to the vote, and they will decide about the future. I do this with full respect to the Polish voters. The alternatives, I think, are clear, and now it's up to them.
But in a recent resolution, the European Parliament has called for a full OSCE election observation mission. So are you worried about the fairness of the elections in Poland?
With deep respect for the democracy in Poland, I think a lot of people, the Poles, know exactly what is going on, and it's up to them to decide.
But they are playing with a lot of anti-German sentiments on the election trail.
Yeah, we see a lot of debates going on from both sides, and again, it's up to the Poles to decide now.
In recent months, you have pointed to voter fatigue with the demands of the European Green Deal, especially among farmers. Are you worried that being too ambitious could fuel anti-EU sentiment, for instance, in Poland, and help the Peace Party secure a victory again?
Well, populists and anti-Europeans will always misuse European ambitious legislation for their interests. We have to do what we believe in, and that's why my group has supported 32 out of 34 legislative files on the Green Deal. We are committed, and I would even say that on the center of the climate debate, it was the emission trade system. So that is the center, the most important piece of legislation, and there it is even EPP driven, and the thinking behind market-based is quite EPP driven. So that's why this Green Deal is an EPP deal. Ursula von der Leyen presented it. But we are not swallowing all the Timmermans proposals. It's about the content, you know. For example, to forbid the combustion engine is a mistake. Yeah? We are not regulating as Parliament, as politicians, technologies. It's about giving clear ideas about the target. In 2035, no new car with CO2 emissions. That is a target. But the technology is up to the engineers, it's up to the companies, it's up to the market, to the consumers. So that is, there we have on the way to do things, different ideas between EPP and Greens. And that should be allowed in a way. That's not about not being ambitious. We should really be happy that we Europeans are together committed. Even poorer countries are committed to the climate goals. I think that's great, that is really great. And if we do legislation, if we finally vote for 32 legislative files, it's also clear that we have to go back home and explain people why we did it, why it is needed. So politics is not only sitting in Brussels and deciding in the Parliament about legislation, it's also communicating, explaining things. And this kind of leadership is obviously needed in a time where we have so much fundamental changes going on. You know, next to the Green Deal, we also had legislation on digitalization as a key pillar of this mandate. And also in this field with artificial intelligence, so much things are going on, so much technological revolutions are ongoing. And that means a lot of explaining things and bringing people on board. Again, that is our approach, to listen and to care and then to explain also.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.